All right, welcome back to the next episode of the MOTU Classics Director's Commentary. Today we're going to be talking about Triclops. And no, not this guy dressed up as Triclops. We'll get into the actual figure. Quick update and correction. I apparently have been mispronouncing one of the horsemen's names, Eric Treadaway. I was saying Treadwell. I'm sorry, Eric. That's totally because I'm doing this stuff from home and the whole shutdown thing and its craziness. So I apologize for absolutely butchering your name in the Merman video. I will make sure to do that correct going forward. Okay. Wow, Triclops has coffee. I just noticed that. That's kind of funny. Or is that beer? Who knows? All right, let's get into the figure, not the cosplay. So, Triclops, this is the 2000X version, and again, Classics was coming out really close to 2000X. We're now in 2020 where we're a lot farther time-wise away from that. But because Classics was coming out so close to the end of 2000X, there were a lot of people, very emotionally attached to that line, kind of wanting to see it continue. So Classics kind of felt a little bit like a slap in the face to some people because we were, making the figures a little bit closer to the vintage versus, just keeping the 2000X line going. But I think in time people embraced it. And, Triclops, his vintage figure here, while he translated to both styles, to the 2000X style and to Classics, the 2000X style, which had all the, the extra rivets and the extra tubing and, all that kind of stuff, was missed. I think, a lot of people wanted to see that in a 6-inch figure, especially so close to the 2000X era. But, by classicizing, if you will, the figures, it was much more of a look closer to the vintage figures. And when it came time to doing more figures in Classics, Triclops was definitely high up on the list. Really, when we got more slots, I wanted to get the characters like Trapjaw. I wanted to try to get to him as soon as possible. But Trapjaw was just going to be a ton of tooling. He was going to need new legs, new arms, new head, all those different attachments. We wanted to really do him justice. So we knew he was going to have to be put on hold. And same with Teela, obviously a major character we wanted to get out there, but Teela had an entirely different buck body, a female body, which meant that she was going to have to be on hold for a little bit until we had the budget to do a fully tooled figure. I think she actually became our first new fully tooled figure, but we'll get to her in time. So back to Triclops, and again back to the 2000X version. It kind of reinvented the character, shall we say. He was presented more as an inventor and a scientist type for Skeletor, as opposed to originally he was just kind of like a swordsman and a spy and I think an assassin kind of thing in the original mini-comics. But now 2000X had kind of made him into a scientist type who was inventing things and for Skeletor and stuff like that. And of course he had his his spying robots that were like the worst kept secret in Eternia, the Doomseekers. But when it came time to putting him into Classics, it was pretty easy because he didn't need another buck. He was going to use the human buck with new armor and new accessories and new head. So that was kind of why he got bumped up so quickly in the line, simply because he was easy to do. He required fewer new parts as far as some of the major characters. I mean, Ram Man, again, needed a full new body. So, again, Triclops became an obvious character to do. And, I had the vintage Triclops. He was definitely a figure I really liked. I only liked this eye, though, when I was a kid. I thought all the other eyes looked silly. This was kind of like the mean eye and made him look more like a villain. The other eyes, I don't know. I thought they looked kind of like dorky, for lack of a better word. Not that I'm not a nerd and a dork myself. But yeah, when I was a kid, I really only kept him with like one eye, and he was more like a Cyclops character than a Triclops, because I never turned the eye. I just thought the other ones weren't as cool. Speaking of me as a kid, this is actually a perfect time to segue into that. So when I was a child, I got very sick on my birthday. Not so sick that, it's not like the coronavirus or, Ebola or anything like that. I just had a head cold, but my parents had to be sick in bed on my birthday. That wasn't me. This is actually me. That's me with Stratos on my head, and my best friend Sean with Merman, and his brother Justin with Man-at-Arms. So yes, I was actually a He-Man fan as a kid. I'm not just kind of making this up. There's proof in the pudding, right? Like someone wouldn't believe me. But anyway, back to the story. So I was very sick on my 4th birthday, and so much so that we couldn't have all of my friends over and do the whole cake thing for my party. We actually had to cancel the party, which obviously when you're 4 years old, that is extremely disappointing and crushing. So in order to cheer me up that my party had to be, well, not canceled, but postponed for a few weeks, my parents decided to give me some of my gifts early. And the big thing I got was Castle Grayskull. I got Castle Grayskull, I got a handful of figures, and this was amazing. I mean, not just because it was an amazing toy, but I think because I wasn't feeling well, it was really kind of this beacon of joy, and that might be a big part of the reason why I fell in love with the brand so much, is because this was like the best thing to happen to me when I was 4. It was like, whoa, I'm not feeling well, but I got this amazing giant castle. And I got a handful of figures. I got He-Man, I got Man-at-Arms, I got Stratos, I got Battle Cat in kind of like that first, batch, and I also got Skeletor. I did not get Beastman, and I did not get Zodak or Merman. I actually never had those figures as a kid. That was always something that, childhood trauma, right? Because I didn't have Merman and Zodak and Beastman. My friend Sean did, though. There he is with his Merman. And so, whenever I'd go over his house, I'd be able to play with those characters, and that was more my introduction to them, because I never had them. And so I would learn about these other characters when I would go over his house and see which figures he got for his birthday. And I remember my mother used to mark all my figures with red nail polish, so I knew which He-Man was mine and which was Sean's. I think other people have talked about that too. It's kind of like one of those weird hidden things from the 80s that people didn't realize other people's moms were doing as well. So yeah, how many people had red nail polish on their figures? Okay, I'm totally off track. Let's get back to Triclops now that I've told my personal MOTU story. So I remember a big thing when he was announced, it came out, is fans were asking if the helmet was movable. And I didn't understand what fans meant. This was kind of one of those first miscommunications of the internet. I thought fans meant, could you remove the helmet from the head and take it off? And so I immediately said, no, the helmet's not movable. And so there was, of course, a rebellion because, one, I mean, you could yank it off, and the 4 horsemen sculpted these amazing details under the head. But what I realized they meant was, could you spin it? Which, of course, you could spin it. I thought they meant, could you easily, was the helmet poppable off? And it wasn't meant to come off. But you could look under. Another cool detail the horsemen did was those knives on the back. And this was just, 3 knives, Triclops, assassin guy. One of those really cool details that they made up that I don't think was asked for, that they just added. And the Doomseeker, too, was also something I think they really brought to the next level. And by the way, again, this was like the worst-kept secret in Eternia, because how in the world the good guys didn't see Doomseekers floating around the palace spying on them is like, seriously, guys? They're all over the place, and they're constantly spying on you. But, yeah, that's neither here nor there. But I really loved what the Horsemen did by repainting it in kind of trap-jaw colors. Not trap-jaw, Triclops colors. We're doing Triclops here, Scott. Wake up. So, that was a neat surprise. I was expecting it to show up in silver, and when it came and showed up in green and orange, I was like, yeah, see, that's what the Horsemen are all about. They're always thinking. This was also one of the first figures where we had not just the accessories that we announced with the figure, which was his sword and the Doomseeker and the Doomseeker stand, but we wanted to do a mystery figure, or not figure, accessory. An accessory that the fans weren't going to find out about until they opened the package. And we kind of tried to just build up a lot of hype about this, like, what was going to be the big mystery, what was he going to come with, and getting fans to talk online simply because it was a marketing gimmick. We didn't have comics, we didn't have cartoons, we had nothing. So to get fans talking about the figure, the best way to do it was to come up with these kind of gimmicks, and if everyone was talking online about what could be the mystery accessory, at least it was something to talk about. So the mystery accessory turned out to be the Ring of Grayskull, and no, not this Ring of Grayskull. I'm talking about that Ring of Grayskull, the one that the vintage figure came with. And fans obviously, did kind of figure this out, and it was one of the things talked about. It's not like it was, going to be a total shocker that this wound up being the mystery accessory, because as I said, the vintage figure did come with this ring. And I have no idea why. People ask me, like, why he came with this in the vintage line. I was that 4-year-old kid sick in bed when he came out, so I don't know. I wasn't working for Mattel at the time. I did ask around, and unfortunately I couldn't get an answer to that one. But, hey, it was cool. Another thing to point out on Triclops is the bio. His real name, Tridor Esquinox Scope, that came from the Michael Halpern Bible, where it named Triclops T.E. Scope. Get it? Like telescope? Yeah, I know. It was the same Bible that had Beastman as Biff Beastman and, other stuff. But we tried to use everything. The idea was to have Triclops be a nod to all the different versions throughout the years. Even maybe the versions we didn't have rights to, like Filmation at the time. But, hey, the line was really padding out. We had quite a lot of figures by now, and it looked like there was positive momentum. Maybe we could actually make this into a line.